Good evening. This is our third budget hearing for fiscal year 2027, which begins on May 1st, 2026 and concludes on April 30th, 2027. Will our village clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Pierce Slovan,
Here.
trustee Schechter,
Here.
trustee Kamani Levy,
Here.
trustee Robinson,
Here.
trustee Iverson,
Here.
trustee Lissa Levy is absent, Mayor Tennis.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Virtually.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us. And I.
Yes, thank you.
We will begin unless the village manager would like to say anything.
Just to the opposition to the.
Thank you. Any concern, does anyone, does everyone approve of trustee Lissa Levy participating remotely? No concerns, so trustee Lissa Levy will participate remotely. Thank you for making the effort to participate. We will now turn over the floor to our Director of Health and Human Services, Mike Charlie.
Thank you, Mayor Thomas. So good evening, Mayor, members of the village board. My name is Mike Charlie, and I'm honored to serve as the Director of the Health and Human Services Department for the village of Skokie. Along with me tonight, I also wanted to mention that I have Sherry Lindo with me tonight. She's the Health and Human Services Public Health Program Analyst Coordinator. So Sherry does a great deal of work in Health and Human Services with our grant programs, making sure that all the reports get submitted on time. And she works really closely with the rest of our Health and Human Services staff. So I want to thank her for being here tonight. So again, I wanted to thank you guys for this opportunity. And I also want to thank you guys all for your continued support of the work the department does every day on behalf of the Skokie community. I'm here tonight to propose the fiscal year 27 budget for Health and Human Services. Health and Human Services, we really touch nearly every part of community life, from protecting public health and responding to emergencies to supporting older adults, families, and residents facing hardship. I am proud of our staff's dedication. I'm grateful for the partnership of the board as we continue working to keep Skokie healthy, safe, and supported. The proposed fiscal year 27 Health and Human Services budget continues to support a broad and integrated system of public health and human services across all 5 areas or divisions of Health and Human Services administration: environmental health, community health, human services, and grant funded programs. In fiscal year 27, the department anticipates generating $791,437 in grant and fee revenue. That includes $506,096 in projected grant funding and $285,341 in fees. And that's helps support approximately 1/3 of our department's expenditures. This budget reflects our continued commitment to fiscal stewardship, public health protection, and responsive service delivery. It also supports our ongoing work as a state certified health department, while advancing the priorities identified in the Skokie's community health improvement plan, including access to health, behavioral health, and affordable housing. So I'd like to start with our administrative division, which continues to provide leadership, budget oversight, grant management, communications, planning, community engagement with residents and external public health stakeholders, and operational support for all the department functions. So the fiscal year 27, the increase in administration is modest and is limited to only the required salary adjustments, totaling $4,569. For our community health division, the fiscal year 27 budget reflects a $9,986 increase, also due solely to required salary adjustments for existing staff. This division remains central to our disease prevention and response efforts through immunization clinics, communicable disease investigations, childhood-led case management, healthcare screenings, and health education. Plus, they also coordinate and manage our medical reserve program. The environmental health division budget reflects a net decrease of $59,567, driven primarily by reductions in professional services, including lower contracted rat control costs, about $75,000 less. and the elimination of the contracted food inspection contractor, which is about $65,000. At the same time, the budget includes several targeted investments, including $8,844 for a 12-week seasonal environmental health intern to further strengthen the village's rodent control efforts, and $65,000 to hire an outside engineering firm to conduct the village's community water supply sampling program. Even with these changes, the division continues to maintain its core services, including food inspections, pool inspections, daycare and long-term care inspections, water sampling, and rodent control. Our human services division includes a moderate increase of $12,966, tied to required salary adjustments and the expansion of the youth outreach coordinator position to support the newly created youth commission. This division remains essential in helping residents facing financial hardship, behavioral health crisis, housing instability, and other barriers to well-being, as well as linking residents to those outside stakeholders that make Skokie an amazing place to live. Finally, the grants division. It does reflect a net decrease due to the expiration of several time-limited awards. While grant revenue is projected to decline from previous years, grant funding remains a critical resource that helps sustain personnel, public health programming, and specialized initiatives across the department. Overall, this proposed budget is responsible, mission-driven, and aligned with the health and human service needs of our community. It preserves essential services, supports our workforce, and positions us to continue protecting the health, safety, and well-being of Skokie residents. And in closing, the fiscal 27 budget is a thoughtful plan that maintains core services, strengthens our public health capacity, and responds to community needs, upholding our commitment to fiscal stewardship. I want to thank the mayor, I want to thank the board for your ongoing support. I want to thank John and Nick for a lot of direction they provide on the budget. And I want to provide Cher and the rest of the staff for helping put this place together for health and human services. I want to thank you for your time and support. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
I'd like to start off with questions. Please detail more for us the department's ongoing efforts regarding road abatement.
Sure.
We had some spikes last summer. I know we're working on that. I know there's some new enforcement activities.
Yeah.
So we're looking for a rat-free summer.
Yeah, so, about two budgets ago, the board actually approved a budget increase to allow us to pay an outside contractor to ensure that we had weekly bathing of boroughs. And since over the last 2 years, we've actually seen a decrease of about 31% in regards to the number of cases that we've received, which is really good news. And we've seen a consistent downward trend in regards to rat activity in the town, just based on data alone. And we put a lot of effort, not only to hiring that additional rat control contractor, but we also have an internal team that meets once a month that includes public works, that includes the village manager's office, it includes communications, building department. Yeah, so we meet once a month and we take a look at the data, we take a look at the heat maps. I mean, we focused a lot of our attention into those areas where we have the highest density of rats. So just recently, we started a program where in those areas where we have the highest density of rats, we're actually driving the alleys and issuing citations to those residential property owners that have overflowing garbage. And I think we had issued like 77 citations. And as a result of that, anecdotally, the waste guys who pick up the waste for the village have said they've actually seen a difference in those areas, like a culture change already just by issuing citations. I think people may be talking, I don't know. We've also put a lot of effort into meeting with staff and looking at cases that are open, for example, over 60 or 90 days. And then throwing more resources towards those properties, because there's got to be a reason why we can't eliminate the rats in a quicker way. So we're trying to reduce the time the cases are open. We're trying to reduce cases overall. We've done a ton of public education, and then we've had monthly articles in the e-news. We went into the areas with the highest density of rats and handed out literature to residents. So we've done a lot. I don't actually, we've done more work, but we certainly have enhanced a lot of our rec control programs. An effort to reduce the cases.
Talk about some of the unique things you did in January, February to during the cold winter months to smoke out the bird.
And I mean, we were going out into the community and when it was, we realized, at least Cameron's team realized that when it's colder out, threats tend to hibernate more and we have smoke bombs we can use and they're most effective when they're hibernating. So we started a pilot project where it's around, for a while there, we were going out, in addition to baiting, we were also hitting them with the smoke bombs that's in the burrows. Like I said, it's most effective when they're less active. So we're gonna continue to use different tools like that to try to reduce the rat population.
Go ahead, trustee Roberts.
Thanks for your work on that, and I know most of the data is self-reported. So, right, like if I have rat activity, most of the data that you guys are receiving, somebody or the property owners reported it. I'm wondering, is there a way, because the data is only as good as what you receive. And I know sounds like you're getting great data, but I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to even be more mindful of the marketing. In my head, I'm thinking rat issues, call this number or report it here, or just the campaign that kind of encompasses more of the community instead of some of those targeted areas, again, which is great. But if you don't know, you don't know how to.
Yeah, and we've certainly made an effort to push out more. I think when I first got here 5 years ago, we weren't using some of our, we weren't pushing out as much information. Maybe it's because there's a stigma, right? Nobody wants to see a rat article.
That was I
I mean, you
can
know,
tell you, I
we're
can
here.
tell you. That was the culture that I'll talk about. It was.
So one of the items that they do when a borough is reported, they survey the entire block into the door hangers on every house in the block. To keep and make sure, because if there's a borough in one area, it's likely to be others nearby. So that's how some.
We made a bunch of subtle changes, like after a case closes, we send a follow-up email to everyone. We didn't used to do that. We'll send a follow, your case is closed. We leave door hangers every visit now, where we didn't used to do that. I mean, this is over the last couple of years, we've improved the program to be more informative, we've reduced the number of phone calls coming in because what we've done is we've made it more efficient by routing people directly to our website. Alex has done a great job in helping us set up like the online tools. People could submit a release form right away. So we're trying to increase efficiencies with staff and how we do things. And we're trying to get out there within like 1 or 2 business days to attack them right away. So we've made a lot of changes to the program, I think, and it's been really effective.
And the 31% reduction is amazing, amazing. So that's.
Just so we should,
Please, trustee Peterslow.
which probably is something that we should say at a village board meeting, because people are always, if there's something to talk about that's positive, why do we not speak about it at a village board meeting? You shouldn't wait till people start complaining again and stay ahead of this.
I agree, and
Let's have a report about what we've done.
Yes.
The summer's coming. Let's
John's
be
making notes.
positive.
So in
Positive
May,
attitude.
next
Love
month.
our rats.
Appreciate that suggestion. At one of our meetings in May, we will have a report. I believe that in tandem with the message about the reduction and the efforts, I also think we have to continue and maybe even amplify the message that eradicating rodents in Skokie is another one of everyone's responsibilities. Everyone's responsible.
That's a nice, phrase,
Speaking this.
So clever, eradicate.
That's what we
Everything must be eradicate.
Where's,
So, yes, but I think from a communication standpoint, I think we need to. Any other questions about the health department? Yes, trustee Schechter.
Yeah, thank you, and Mike, I just think that our Health and Human Services is doing amazing work, and I really also want to give a shout out to all that you've done in terms of human relations and Amanda working with the commission and your partnership with Jordan Niles Township and around immigrant rights. And I thought that, this is something I think to highlight as an FY 26, win for the department. So I just had, just a couple things, because you're the most, in a way, interdisciplinary, you're the hub for a lot of things we do. So I was wondering, like, in terms of mental health, the CESA, I had to look up what that is. Community Emergency Services and Supports Act. I know we're talking about a little bit in conjunction with the police department, but it's about like mental health professionals coming in. And can you talk a little bit about how that's,
Yeah, so, it's been a couple of years now where the state of Illinois, had said that they established the 988 number, right? And they had also established that when somebody calls 911, that 911 then has a responsibility then to triage the call and determine whether or not it should be referred back to 988 or back to the mental behavioral health professional, whether it be a call center. And I know for a number of years, it's been since actually Chief Baker was here, he was first introduced to this, is that state had an idea, but they didn't really have the logistics down. And unfortunately, I think the state is still working through those logistics. And I think that Chief Barnes has now inherited that from Chief Baker. So I think what's happening now is there's like different stages to it. And I think this is the second stage where Village of Skokie is actually a part of it. So I know for sure that John Barku from the police department has been assigned to attend these meetings with the state to ensure that when the state is ready to hand the logistics off to the police department, the police will be prepared to handle those calls. But right now, it's sort of in limbo, it's sort of purgatory, I guess you could say, the whole CESA thing, but I've been familiar with this for a number of years. It's just very slow moving. Yeah.
and I just had a couple of other questions. One is,
pay their tuition and other ancillary costs for them to attend a short-term certificate program at Oakton. And we were finally able to launch this program, I think it was in 2020, or no, 2021 it was. The Skokie Community Foundation provided seed money. It was quickly matched by the Education Foundation, serving the students of Niles Township. We, the village then, was able to kick in some COVID relief, federal COVID relief funds. Both of the nonprofits kicked in more money. So at one point, we had a pool, it was over $50,000. And what we did was we worked with Oakton to make sure that there was a very defined group of professionals on Oakton's staff with whom our students would interact. The students also were required to sign FERPA permission forms for our social work staff to work with them. That was kind of one of the conditions, that if we were going to fund their tuition, our social workers needed to be in the mix to help them with any wraparound services. You know, you learn with any program like that. There was quite a bit of recidivism. Life gets in the way and drops out. We did have some who completed, some that maybe made it partially through, and then even what they got was enough to get them a job in the field. So that's what that program, we have a small amount of funds
We have
left.
about $15,000 left, and we're gonna start promoting that soon for the fall semester.
And the average tuition, and maybe this has changed, but I think we did the math at one point, isn't it about 2,700?
It was.
Right, depending on what course curriculum,
Okay.
Microsoft Office, pharmaceutical assistant training, different CPA prep, things like that.
and how do we publicize this?
Oh, go ahead.
No, we have publicized it in the past in like the school. Yeah, and we'll be doing it again between now and fall, yeah, so we'll be pushing it out. I think, yeah, with $15,000, we'll be able to, it's around $2,500 a student. Hopefully we'll get 6 or 7 new students.
What, what we're doing, around that, or how does that affect us?
Yeah, and I
compared
think
to
that
the
I
township?
started around February first, the federal,
Oh.
right, standards, and then I think that, I think they said you have to, you either have to be in a training or work, or be working, or you in order to qualify, still looking for a job, something like that, I don't think we've done anything in regards to marketing it, or not marketing it, providing education and literature, but I do know that I talked to the social workers, and when they are talking to families who, being new qualified for SNAP, they were kind of helping them navigate the process and connecting them with DHS. So that they were able to better understand all the moving parts to this.
Good.
But we can certainly put something else in the scoop. I think that makes sense.
Trustee Pierce, in there.
Thank you for the report, it's always wonderfully read, our job. And then, and comparisons are easy. To think through,
Yeah.
so compared to last year, and then this was said, supported by 1,921 residents who needed, social work services and this mental health. I'm always concerned about mental health people, and post-COVID, do we see a difference? And is 1,900 a lot, a little, average? I don't know way of understanding if that's a good number.
Yeah, I mean, is there, are there numbers from the previous budget year in there?
I might have to go to the line.
Yeah, I actually have, I have numbers for the last.
Just in overall.
Well, it's about average, that's about what
It's
we're
about
doing the
average,
last
is there a
2
difference?
years at least.
Okay, and then, yeah,
Looking back.
if you had to guesstimate, I'm not gonna hold you to numbers.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's been a decrease in needs in social services and mental health since COVID, or it's
I don't think
stayed
so.
the same? So that
I
didn't go
don't
back necessarily.
No, I don't think so. I think that it's been pretty
You
consistent.
would know if there was a difference.
Yeah, I don't think there has been much of a difference. I think there's still a demand for services.
Well, that I would agree, I just didn't know where,
Yeah,
if there was a drop in demand, which I would hope.
Yeah.
Meaning that people don't need it.
so, I mean, I think there's still a lot of people needing services and assistance, so.
Right. Okay, thank you, I'm glad you're there for.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of data, the co-responder team, I was looking at data for this last fiscal year, they averaged about 96 calls in this fiscal year versus 93 for last year. So you can see, then again, maybe they're just using them more often. There's a lot of variables, but you can certainly see that it's pretty consistent
96 calls per month.
per month. Yeah,
I'm glad to hear it didn't double,
no,
so that if it stays around the same, that's,
It's a lot of calls.
it is a lot of. No, I understood there was a lot of calls, but I would hate to say it went from 96 to 180. That's not.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Actually, just on trustee Pure Slogan's question, I'm looking at page 189 of the big budget. We're projecting like at half, individuals assisted with emergency financial assistance, we projected cut in half from this year. What is right? The bottom of page 189
In this big book.
on the big one.
no.
Just wondering why,
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah.
I'd have to do it 189.
City Grand Trustee, please.
If under workload indicators, it's the bottom, and then it has it's the top one. You see that?
Individuals assisted with emergency.
Must be looking at the wrong, I must be.
Oh, yeah, that is interesting.
Here, come on.
Chart.
Yeah.
That's
You
a
guys-
that's a considerable decrease, you're correct. That's interesting. Right there,
Or-
it's on the screen there.
Are we
Yeah.
thinking,
I wonder
are we
what-
thinking, Mike, that?
I think that's heavily budget dependent. I mean, I think that if we have the funds, we'll help 113 people. But I think right now, looking at the projected funds, we may not be able to help as many people next year, but
One thought I
the
had.
needs there. The demand is
We have
high.
one more minute, so go ahead.
Oh, the new housing fund. you know, where we just approved last night a variety of uses for it, and I believe among them was like for, at least for housing, this is housing.
And does some of that factor into what we get, what donations are made for
Yeah,
assisted family?
yeah, it's sort of a combination of what we have budgeted, what we have in reserves, and then what we give donations. That all adds up to like what we use.
Well, on behalf of all of us, thank you for your hard work. Sharon, thank you. Being here, thank you for your hard work and for being the heart of what we do.
Thank you guys for all your support, and I thank John and Nick for all their direction too. They do a great job. By the way, for human relations, it's Amanda's the star. I don't really do that much. She does all the work, so. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seat next to you, or nice. Oh,
So we will now hear from the representatives of the Skokie Fire Department, our chief, Nick Eschner, Deputy Chiefs Adam Pease and Stephen Jagman, and Management Analyst Ryan Hall. So welcome, looking forward to your presentation.
thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees, village leadership. Obviously, thank you for the time and opportunity here this evening. And all your support along the way. Truly is appreciated. Like the mayor introduced, this is Adam Pease, he runs our operations side of the fire department. Steve does the administrative stuff, and then Ryan's making a lot of things happen as a management analyst, getting us this data so we can make good, informed, data-driven decisions. So. And then Mike's hiding over here, but Mike Greenwood's the division chief of fire prevention, and they're the heart and soul of a lot of our prevention efforts, and is also with us here tonight. All right, so the goals of our presentation here tonight. First, we're gonna real quickly go over the statistics from calendar year 2025. We use a lot of calendar years rather than fiscal years in our reporting. That's how our neighboring towns do that, and so that's the reasoning for that. We'll review our 2026 accomplishments. We'll look at what we're proposing here, the significant proposals for 2027, and then we'll look at some future opportunities for the fire department and village. So for 2025, this is what it looked like for us as far as call volume was concerned. Went on 11,033 calls, slightly down from the previous year, which was our record year. But still right there within 1% of what we do. Station 16 did about 26% of the work at 2,802 calls. Station 17, 2,907 calls, right there with Station 16. And then Station 18 did 48% of the work with 5,320 calls. Our busiest engine was engine 18, 3,786 calls, with our busiest ambulance also being over at Station 18. We average a 29-minute turnaround on the ambulances, and so as far as industry standards, that's pretty impressive. And so we're doing everything we can at the fire department to try to keep our ambulances in service and serve the community. And so our people have really stepped up there, and I think that's a stat that we're proud of, that the way we're serving the community. All that equates to about 30.2 calls for service a day. When we look at what we're going to or what we're responding to, EMS continues to be the number one. Throughout our history, 65 to 68% have been EMS related, and in 2025 that was no different for us. Continues to be right in that wedge that we would expect. Service calls, obviously we're a service oriented organization. That's anything from lockouts, lifts, desist, things like that where we're helping the community, and that's a big number of our calls. Right following that is our fire alarms that we respond to. And so obviously something in the buildings, saying that there's a potential fire or recognizing something like that. So we respond to that. Good intent is maybe your dryer vent, is blowing off in the wintertime and your neighbor thinks your house is on fire. And so that ends up being a good intent call. But we, happen on about 2 of those a day. And then hazardous conditions could be all sorts of things, from electric to utility issues. Fire calls, that's where we actually use water. We put something out. It could be a car, it could be a bush, it could be a house. But those are those reports right there. Severe weather, that captures our trees down, our wires, all that. And unfortunately, with a lot of overhead power, we do see quite a bit of that summer times and sometimes in the snow and heavy ice too. So that's our breakdown. Then for service-based industry, our people, it's the most important thing that we have. That's what drives us. They make the difference for us on a daily basis. So we have 113 sworn firefighters over 3 shifts, and we operate with 28 firefighters a day. Right now, we are a little junior, 11.4 years of service is our average, but that's an opportunity I see that it is. And that's why we're invested heavily in training, just to be able to meet all the demands. Our average age is 39.5 years old, so that's a good number. As far as training, we've done a great job training, and kudos to this board who helped get us a 40-hour training officer. Matt Gaynor is the division chief of training, has been super instrumental in helping boost these numbers and help to drive the way. So 30,877 hours of training. That's about 275.7 hours per person, which is pretty impressive. We were able to get 138 new certifications through the Office of the State Fire Marshal, which is a very impressive number, but it's stacked against almost any organization our size, definitely. And then we recertified 400 people. That was a big push on why we brought Matt Gaynor in as a division chief, as OSFM was requiring recertifications of our certifications, which had never been done before. And so we very successfully navigated those waters. On top of all that, we were out in the public quite a bit. Either they're coming by us or we were with them 213 times, and we attended 72 block parties. So we were out there making a difference. As far as 2026 accomplishments, we did a lot of good things. One that we're proud of is we started this one team campaign. We had a lot of great people, but we were looking kind of like Phil Jackson when he went to the Lakers and didn't win the championship. He had to bring them all together, and he had to make that one great team, and that's what we're working on. We have 9 shifts, 9 stations at one point in time, and we're working to bring that one team together. That's through communication, culture, all those type of things. And so, big thing that we've been working on, been going very well for us. A testament to all the work in here and everything that this board has provided, but we were able to put all our fire apparatus as ALS capable rigs. And so we went from 3 ALS fire capable rigs to all 7. So what that does is that provides medication, airway management, and all the cardiac needs instantly. And so that becomes very important as we're running more ambulance calls, and ambulances are at various hospitals or coming from different places. That allows us to provide that ALS care that the ambulance previously was providing instantly as soon as that fire company arrives. So, kudos to this group for that. Much like the village we took on a strategic plan. This is part of our accreditation, but we developed a 5-year strategic plan, and we used the Public Safety Commission as an external partner, and then also our people. We did every shift, every station, did a survey, kind of a SWOT analysis of what we had going on. And together we formulated the strategic plan, which is definitely going to give us an opportunity for a lot of success moving forward. This kind of showcases some of those in-house classes. In-house classes is a way for us to provide education to our members. We're able to certify more people. We're able to do it more cost effectively, and we're teaching with our equipment, our ways, and our instructors. So really beneficial. We were able to do 6 of those during the fiscal year. Another shout out to this group and the support of our fleet. Our fleet is looking the best it's been since I've been a member of the Skokie Fire Department. That's because of the support here. And we're ahead of the trend nationally. A lot of places are having a lot of trouble with their fleet, but this board had the vision to be able to move things forward. And so we were able to put engine 18 into service as a brand new engine at station 18. We also were able to put a brand new engine into service at engine 17. And so 2 great things that provide reliability, and this really helped us move things forward. As far as on emergency operations, side point of emergency management stance, we updated the emergency operations plan, also the continuity of government and the continuity of operations plan for the village. And so those were some larger lifts that we were able to accomplish within the fire department. A program that we're very proud of is the Explorers. The Explorers continues to grow. So 24 current members, all local, youth, which is great. I always tell them, I can't wait until I'm hopefully retired someday and I can sit back and watch some of them be the leaders within the community. And I truly do believe in that. With,
If I may,
yeah.
some of those explorers are quite young.
Yeah, so that's actually, that's our fire buddy. So Jack is our fire buddy, which is another great program that we have. And that's for, children within the community that are very ill. And so we kind of take them in. There's a whole program, kind of state recognized, and we have a fire buddies chapter that's been very, very successful with this, Jack.
Another communication is wonderful.
Yes, for sure.
Sorry, John, no.
Also right there with that is our Citizens Fire Academy has longstanding been a very successful program for this. This is just one of many things, including CPR and a lot of other outreaches that we do, but great program, begins in August. Anybody that that wants to get a greater insight on the fire department, definitely highly recommended. In addition to that, we're in the process, the accreditation process. So through CPSC and the Commission of Fire Accreditation International, we have become a candidate. And so that means we submitted over 250 self-assessments. We completed a community risk assessment, which looks at what risk we have here. And then we created a standards of cover to evaluate how we're responding to those calls for service. And so all that was done in addition to that strategic plan that we talked about. Yes, Justin.
Thank you. Is this new?
So we are 4-time accredited, and so we're up for, we're gonna become re-accredited here, and so
And how often is it to be reaccredited?
every 5 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
And so with that, they're a little backed up, so we will get a site team in August or September, and they only hold twice a year commission hearings, so probably March of 2027 is when we get that official accreditation status. So. Then on top of that, we won the Schaumburg softball tournament, which obviously a big thing for the fire department. So those are our 2026 accomplishments. With that, I'm going to go over the significant requests for fiscal year 2027. The first one being the community risk reduction intern. This is community risk reduction is really a holistic approach to reducing injury, property loss, and death. Traditionally, fire prevention is kind of what we've done, but that's kind of a very narrow or pigeonholed approach to risk. And so this is an opportunity where we'll be able to work with the health department, a lot of others, really drill into our data, figure out what's causing injuries and issues within the village, and hopefully, move forward with that. This intern, which would be a great opportunity for anybody within the community, supports everybody as a place in Skokie, but also gives an opportunity for us to work to, look at that data. We'll hopefully be able to develop a plan with them, so we have an action plan to move forward and then be able to start, some of the education and all that. I'm a product, I was very fortunate, Winnetka Fire Department provided an internship for me along with McHenry Township Fire District back in the day. Then Adam was given a similar opportunity by Mount Prospect back in the day. And looking back, those were mutually beneficial opportunities for everybody involved, both the fire department greatly benefited from that, and then both of us are definitely benefits of that. And so this is a real good opportunity that we are.
Quick question. Are you expecting this would be an annual?
Yeah,
internship?
potentially, and so that's the hope. I think there is enough work out there as far as when we look at this holistic approach and truly making a difference, that this is a position that we would like to support annually. Obviously, there's budget constraints to that. But there are organizations that do have a 40-hour week, 365 day, full year position that this is what they do, the community risk reduction. In addition to that, we're taking some 7G money, so that's a FLASA, Fair Standards Labor Act. And that's cut out for them. But we're taking some of that money, we're using that with our own people doing fire inspections. And we just found that we weren't filling all those hours or meeting all those obligations. And so we're splitting the pot in half, and half is gonna go to the part-time inspector, which will create a little bit more consistency. And then we'll still have the opportunity for our 7G for our employees that want to take advantage of that opportunity. So that supports the strategic goal, community vibrancy. With that, village services for now and for the future, this group has supported the 6 paramedic students at a time and continues, we're asking for that again. And so that comes with a large cost, but that's helping support our ALS program and our work toward a fourth ambulance. And so that's ensuring everybody on the fire department becomes certified as a paramedic. And now we're retaining that. We're making sure people continue to maintain their paramedic license. And then obviously the largest ask here for us is village services for now and for the future. And that's the staffing or introduction of a fourth ambulance. And so how this is being proposed is we staff an ambulance during what we call power hours. And so really, those are the hours where the ambulances are most busy by data. And a few slides forward, I'll be able to show that. Right now, we're asking to do this implementation utilizing overtime. So we put 2 people on overtime if necessary to be able to support this during that power hours. And we're requested 3 days a week. Traditionally, that'd probably be our Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Those are our training days. So that allows all 3 shifts to receive the same training. And so we have a lot of moving parts during training to be able to get everybody through the hands-on evolutions that we need. And so this is gonna hopefully take away a little bit of that friction, a little bit of that stress, and allow us to best serve the community. Also, those are the most frequent times. So if we look at it here, some of the data. This is what ambulance 18 is the green one. So ambulance 18 marched across as a green one. The red is ambulance 17 and the blue is ambulance 16. And so as you can see, ambulance 18 does a little bit more work than the other 2. If we kind of roll this back to 1999, that's when we had 2 ambulances and we were looking to introduce a 3rd ambulance. At the time, the village decided capacity was pretty high, and so they asked for a study to be done. And at that time, the study in 99 determined that about 2,444 calls, which was the average at that time, was kind of the threshold. If you look at it, right here today, we're up above that. We're 2,855 calls for service. It's what our current average of our ambulance is. So we're definitely busy, and based on previous studies, we do have that support to consider introducing an additional ambulance. Then here's the power hours. This is how we came to the power hours. We looked year by year, but we also did a 5-year average just to make sure that we didn't have any outliers. And if you look, 8 a.m. is when it starts to get a little bit more dense for us, and then it carries all the way through until the 6 p.m. area. And if you look, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, those are slightly more dense for us than our weekend hours. And that's why we're proposing the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There's friction with the training, and it gives us a greater ability. But here, we think we will definitely be able to make an impact, alleviate calls from ambulance 18, and truly better serve the community. So with that, I have a few future opportunities or this really things. So this is our data. And if we look at it, we did catch a break this year, which is great. Our people needed it. We've been busy. But over a 30-year period, we do project to have a 2.1% increase. That's what the 30-year average is. And so we just have to be mindful of that as we continue to look at, implementing a 4th ambulance and capacity and all those things. So I think it's important. Sometimes when we look, over 3 or 5 years, you really don't see that full picture. But when you see it over, our tested time, it's a little bit more apparent. And then as far as places we're responding to, so still residential is the number 1 response that we have. And so about 57% of the calls that we go on are residential, whether that be a multifamily, single family dwelling. But it's us helping people, at their residence traditionally. And so with that, as we continue to develop, those are the things to be mindful of that, as we further residential develop that, there is potentially impact on service. Here, we're looking at Division 3 as far as MAVIS is concerned. So MAVIS is mutual aid box alarm system. That's how we get our help. That's our neighbors, how we get our help. And so while we have a lot of pride that we're number 1, our ambulance 18 has been number 1 for a couple of years now. And so that takes a toll on our people. And so when we look at that and all the 17 partner agencies, we are number 1 with our ambulance 18. Also, our engine's number 1, so engine 18 is number 1 within the MAVIS division. We have recently taken a couple steps to try to alleviate a couple calls a day, but still not a perfect science. But we are working on trying to reduce that number. And then as we look at stations, our station 18 is the busiest station in MAVIS Division 3. And so, as we just further explore capacity as we move forward, these are the important numbers to understand. And then when we look at incidents per station, again, the same colors apply, but we got station 16 in blue, station 17 in red, and then station 18 in green. And as you can see, that's almost directly correlated, that 48% of calls, they kind of march out very, very similar. And so that, kind of gives justification for that ambulance also. Then on top of all that, I obviously have a bias. I believe in this village. I love this village. I love this fire department. I would stack this fire department and the services we provide against anybody. And with that, we need the next, group of great members. And so if you have anybody that you know of, or anybody you could recommend, we'll be testing here in, late August or, maybe early fall. And so I encourage you to send them our way. We are starting kind of a recruitment work group. We'll hopefully be marketing a little bit better and get the good things going. But that's what we have. I open up for any questions or any comments.
We'll start with the south side of the table, and then we'll go to the north side. We'll start with trustee Kamani.
This is great, I'm public safety, the increase for 18, is that just the regular annual incremental increase, or is it accounting for population increases?
Yeah, so right now that's just been that's kind of this traditionally marching forward. So if we go back to that one graph, I'll try to find it real quick. But if you see, it's very similar year after year after year. It's just in 2008 when I started, I think we were going on 2,500 calls on that ambulance, and now that ambulance is doing 3,600 or more calls. And so just in an 18-year time period, we're seeing a lot more demand, and that's just kind of that gradual increase in calls. The fire service in general, not just specific to Skokie, but in general, has seen this greater demand. And that's for a lot of different reasons. But I think people are using the services a little bit more, which has an effect. We're seeing a little bit more potential mental health on our ambulances, and so we see that. But those are some of the reasons why we continue to grow.
I'm just curious, because, things like the Henry and when you get.
Yeah.
Two of them running and then Main Street, but.
And so, assistant manager Wyatt, I think, was able to get this up, but you see kind of how it move forward, very, very similar. But when you do talk residential, that's 50%, 57% of the calls we go on. We have to, obviously be ready for that.
Trustee Pierce-Logan.
I think I've asked the same question for 5 years in a row, so I apologize, but I will continue. Recruitment, I know, is an issue, it's a national issue.
Sure.
What are we looking at in the pipeline? The retired, how many people do you think are starting to look at retirement and how many places to get back open?
Sure. Yeah. So right now, between 25 and 30 years, which is our traditional retirement age, it's been creeping down toward the 25, used to be closer to 30. But we have 11 people, and there's a few people in our command staff. So those are going to be some larger voids that we do have to fill. But potentially, I would say anywhere from probably 5 to that 11 within the next 2 years during that recruitment. Yeah, that's a lot. We've experienced a tremendous amount though, and so we're kind of on the tail end of it. This is going to be the last 1 or 2 recruitment sessions where we're seeing these big changes. But there was a very tragic fire here in '58, where in 1960 they hired a lot of people. You click 30 years forward, 1990s, we hired a lot of people within a few year window, and we're on the tail end of that again 30 years later. And so,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Robinson.
Yes, I was gonna ask, what would qualify one to be interested to be in a firefighter?
Yeah, I'd say this, you're into the team spirit, you want to be a public servant, you're dedicated to a cause, a mission. And really this, I say we always pick people for character. That's, we want, high integrity and all that. And so there's somebody that wants to be part of that team and has an interest in helping people. And that's the one beauty of this village, is we'll teach you the rest, and so.
17 years old?
Yeah.
What's What's the base?
So
requirement?
21 to 35 is the range that per state statute that you have to be. But we do have our Explorer program, so at 17 years old, we could, start getting you kind of primed for that. But, these are great opportunities, for our youth and, obviously I have a bias toward this job, but I think it's the best in the world. So,
And any relationships with OTAN, any other
yeah.
certified programs?
Sure, and so that's where we have, I think, some major opportunities, and I'm putting together this recruitment task force to figure out where we could do a lot better. I do know, when invited to District 219 for career fairs and stuff like that, we'll go to any, anytime they ask for a speaker, I go to the classroom. But I do think we have some more opportunities within some of these certification programs to do even better.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the north side, trustee Iverson.
Some personnel questions.
Okay.
And first off, on the, who might make a good fireman, my nephew Tommy is a fireman. And I think if you see a young person, when something crazy happens and everyone steps back, but they step forward, that's your guy. And so on that subject, it sounds like you're okay from a staffing standpoint, you're comfortable. When that fourth ambulance, if that plan moves forward and you're doing power hours, there's gonna be a lot of overtime involved.
Right, so, currently, the way that would work is most days we would have to use overtime during those power hours, which is gonna work for a while, but that is gonna take a toll on the workforce. And so we do have to have longer term plans and figure this out together as far as how we do that.
The trend is obvious and unmistakable, as far as your calls and the call volume. So how soon do you envision this fourth ambulance not being just during power hours, but being a straight up fourth ambulance?
Yeah, and really that's up to the community and this board, honestly. That's not a decision that I could make it. I always say it's not the Nick Ashner Fire Department, it's the Skokie Fire Department, and I believe in that. And so, but that's one that we gotta figure out together. Obviously, there's financial ramifications of that. We'd have to, add some additional people. And so that's things that we gotta work through together.
Conceptually, to staff 3 shifts, 3 days, 2 people on the ambulance, so that's a minimum of 6 additional employees. And then we did eliminate 3 firefighters several years back. And so from where we are today, from where we were 20 years ago, we're down 3, and then we're talking about a service enhancement that requires a minimum of 6. And then each firefighter is approximately 100, and with benefits and so forth, approximately $160,000 each. And so, just to give a little bit of context to what was.
Sure.
Thank you.
Dear welcome.
Other questions, trustee Schechter.
Just a kudos here. I really like that, and I mentioned this in the last budget hearing. That the fire department, you're the only ones that had as your objective to promote equity, diversity, inclusion, teamwork, and high morale throughout the organization. I think that's great that you have it. Would love to see it in every department, but
Thank you, Tristan.
sounds like you've got high morale. Sure.
Trying,
We really appreciate the data, the thorough presentation. I would like to talk about the need for a new fire station.
Sure.
When we talk about fire station 18 being the busiest by, you said 48%, I did some putting at 46%.
Okay.
It looks like but I think you're probably right. And that's our smallest station. And I know there are some issues, some land use issues relative to public works and some easements that public works uses that might not be available anymore for storage. So I would just really appreciate your perspective on the idea of a new station. What are your thoughts?
Sure, no, I think Station 18 needs some improvements, and so we've got a good 70 years out of it, and it's done well, but it does need some enhancements, and so either we reinvest there or we look at other opportunities.
And is your sense that that corridor, that north corridor where the Station 18 calls are going, that's where we need to look at.
Yeah, kind of data will show you that we're further north potentially, as far as, that corridor is, what needs it. It does double the calls, so.
I'm gonna turn to our village manager. Any comments from you on that issue?
Yes, facilities is something that we constantly monitor and being able to plan for the future. I do think that with the Old Orchard Road and the bridge specifically project being underway, that once that is complete, I think that's an important data collection point that is not yet refined or accurate. Because the previous bridge was designed a certain way, traffic moved a certain way. And so as we think long-term about what is the demand for services, I think that's an important piece. We do also have to recognize that we're a fully developed community. And so as we draw, today, we admire the location of our 3 firehouses. They were built decades and decades and decades ago. But they, the concentric circle is pretty well balanced for the 3. But as we think about refining and space needs and, some of the frustrations that we have with the public works and the fire station, 18 being in such close proximity, we do have some long-term, kind of situations to resolve. As we sit here today, there's a number of options. All of them are expensive. And I think that over the next year, there'll be some clarity about how we're utilizing the ComEd right of way by Public Works, how traffic will move once the construction of Old Orchard Road is complete. We continue to always monitor land that is available for storage of Public Works, for a potential different public facility. And so as we sit here today, there's not a specific recommendation that this is the best solution to serve the community for decades to come. But we're continuing to monitor all of the things that we've talked about so that we can serve the community appropriately.
Thank you.
And just to put into perspective, a new station would likely cost upwards of $25 to $30 million.
Sure. Do you expect, but there are financing mechanisms to
Sure.
pay for that. I mean, there's bonding, there's, there's grants, there's other things that we can possibly, put in. We would have to when we talk about a capital stack, when it comes to economic vitality projects, we would need a capital stack and a plan for a new fire station. Do you envision us talking about this? This year, we're talking about the 4th ambulance. And 2 meetings ago, we talked about potentially increasing the entertainment tax or amusement tax to fund that and some other important initiatives. Do you expect that next year, during our budget hearings, it will be time to start talking about a new fire station?
I think we have to solve the 4th ambulance first.
Okay.
Because we're doing an initial step with the 4th ambulance and it has a cost of several $100,000. If that ambulance is made permanent for 7 days a week, there's another cost associated with that.
Right.
And so basically doubles the cost. And so that's in the neighborhood of $1.2, $1.3 million annually. The debt service, if we were to buy land and build another station, that annual mortgage payment would be an additional minimum of 1.4 million. So as we're sitting here today, when we talk about a fully staffed everyday ambulance, we need about $600,000 more in funding. And then to talk about another station, an additional station, a new station, whatever it might be, that's another minimum of 1.4 million. So we're talking about $2 million in addition to the proposed FY27 budget on an annual basis. So there's financial, of course, decisions and ramifications to also the service delivery.
Do we have bonds retiring anytime in the
We
future?
do, we have a schedule of when debt service is retiring from the village,
Okay.
and so that's one of the variables as
So
well.
that opens up some opportunity.
Sure.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you. Other questions for our fire department team? Trustee Shekhar.
Yeah, just actually along those lines for Mr. Lockerbie about what is sort of your philosophy or your thoughts on impact fees? I know when you were looking at schedules of, like different revenue options. And I know that there's a danger when you have these, like, you know, you may pushing possible development to other communities, but on the other hand, it seems like if we're going to have more development in certain parts of the village that don't have the infrastructure. I don't know, just
Good
I
point.
have an open mind, but
Please.
what are your thoughts?
So we've done a considerable amount of research about impact fees. Johanna Knight, the Community Development Director, has been leading that effort. So when I, in previous life, so to speak, when I worked in a community that was converting farm fields to subdivisions, it was very common to have impact fees. And so it was going from agricultural land to occupied land. And in that process, roads were being installed and underground infrastructure was being installed, and there needed to be parks, there needed to be new firehouses, you know, that kind of demand. And so impact fees were something that is common in that situation. In our situation, where we have a completely built out community, they're not as common. And they may be common, or they might be a better fit for parks or those types of services. Whereas when we are responsible for providing public safety to all of the community, impact fees are not used for services, except for very unusual situations. So when we're talking about a need for additional staff, additional paramedics, impact fees are not a good fit for that. It's really new infrastructure that is being required because of new construction.
So a new fire station would.
Because we already have a fire station,
Okay,
it's not as clean, our air is clear, and so we haven't found a good fit, with the impact fees yet.
Any other questions or thoughts? Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the hard work. Thanks to the team, and please stay safe.
Very much, Mayor. Thank you for your support and time. Really appreciate it.
May the record reflect we are 9 minutes ahead of schedule.
In the record, we brought sure.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry. Respectfully now. No, I appreciate honestly, it's been, let's get it, because great.
well, they just gave us. I mean, I think it's more. It's like a public, they're not.
Mine's not, I'm very far. It's been exciting. It's elevated.
From the sweet table. Yes. We will continue our budget hearing, hearing from both, first, our Community Development Department, from our Community Development Director, Johanna Knighton. And then we'll hear about economic vitality and tax increment financing from Rod Tonelli, our Economic Vitality Manager. So Ms. Knighton, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Happy to be back in D&E to Sorrow. So thank you for having us. Community development is the department that oversees private development activity, private property activity. We are comprised of 3 divisions: the Planning Services Division, the Office of Economic Vitality, and the Building and Inspection Services Division. I'm joined tonight by Rod, our Economic Vitality Manager. I'll go over the planning services and building and inspection services work, and then Rod will talk about economic vitality. So planning services, we do short and long-term planning activities. In FY 26, the village approved a 66-unit 5-story mixed-use project at 8201 Skokie Boulevard. Recently, the 68 townhome residences at 4600 Main. The McDonald's at 5360 Toohey, which was approved for a rebuild as a LEED certified restaurant. That, as you recall, it was intended for national replication. We are a test site for their work to create a high performing building system to result in shorter idling times, higher performance building envelope, on-site solar systems, and the low carbon building materials. This project is currently under permit right now. While we don't permit school building activities, we do approve work associated with site plans, and we approved just the 2019's plan development for the addition at Niles West and the construction of Niles Central. Both projects are nearing completion. The Assyrian Church of the East at 5050 Church Street was approved for an addition to accommodate a dedicated worship space, and the organization is presently working on submitting building plans or building permits right now. We also have approved numerous auto repair facilities. Interestingly, I think this is a little bit of the sign of the times. People are keeping cars longer, they need them repaired. The demand is real. So they're interesting indicators of our economy. We also have worked pretty rigorously over the past several years, but especially this past year on our housing policy work. The housing subcommittee has met several times. It's comprised of a multi background group of people from different boards and commissions from around the village, as well as 4 public members. The subcommittee advanced their recommendations for accessory dwelling units. That's currently with the Plan Commission, as well as the items that we reviewed to recommend for changes of the zoning ordinance for the implementation of the housing chapter. We also worked on the Housing Land Trust work that was for first reading last night. In addition, prior to that, many of you attended the workshops and activities we convened over the last year to help the community familiarize themselves with what this means, and making sure that we continue to provide public information and education around our housing policy work. This group also oversees our federal grants as it relates to community development block grant. As you know, we get an allocation somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000. We were just notified that we are planning to get our allocation despite what the federal budget says. We did get notification of the amount for this coming year, and so we are moving forward with submitting preparing our action plan for the upcoming program year. So as you know, we do a call for proposals. We have several presenters that is coming up, and then we present in a plan in August, September, for approval by the village board. Portion of the village's CDBG fund supports our home improvement program. Currently, this past fiscal year, 11 requests have been completed and funded, 3 are under construction and 2 are processing. I think this is the most we've done in recent years. That'll be almost 15 by the end of the fiscal year, hopefully. Improvements it's always interesting to hear and see what people want to do. Weatherization improvements such as roof replacement, windows, doors, tuck pointing, and then bathroom improvements to help people age in place. Grab bars, shower conversions, those are always some of the top requests. During this past fiscal year, the village updated our policy. We increased our maximum grant amount from $12,000 to $20,000 to adjust with the higher costs of construction. And also we decreased the required lien time frame from 15 years to 10 years. We got feedback that some homeowners just didn't want to encumber their property for that long of a period of time. So we went to 10 years. Work continues year round, but typically picks up around this time, and we see interest in the program. And we continue to do outreach. People need to know about this, and so we continue to do outreach to make sure people are aware of this great program. In the year ahead, continue the implementation of the housing chapter of the comprehensive plan. We have more zoning text amendments coming forth. So notably, things to make sure that housing staff can continue to adjust and we can reduce hurdles and approvals that people have to go through for those common sense. And similar one that I presented last night, that was my favorite one. Similar ones that make sense. The code just needs to pivot with the times that we're in and the kinds of modifications that people want to make to their homes. Accessory dwelling units will come forth. The plan commission is reviewing it at their next meeting in May. So we anticipate bringing that to the board over the summer when assuming it's ready. We've been balancing what the state is presented as their proposal to require EDUs. We don't know if that's gonna pass, but but the Village of Skokie has stayed in step with what other communities are doing as well as what the state looks like they may do. And when I say what the state might do, that means that they may make it a requirement that communities do not put a barrier to allowing accessory dwelling units. We can't make something even more difficult than burdensome. And then our housing subcommittee is working on a housing needs study to understand the demand for housing in Skokie and make sure that we're aligning our policies and recommendations with that information. Of course, we will continue to work with our development community to make sure we're stewarding projects through a clean and quick process. And then we will also be working on the implementation of our strategic plan. Community vibrancy has a lot of pieces of that fall within the community development department's work. So that includes our sub-area plan work as well as the improvements to the permitting and development review process. Building inspection services, I found myself crossing out some of the things that we talked about last night, but we are responsible for the day-to-day work of making sure that people get permitted activity and inspecting homes and properties. And this past fiscal year, we issued, as of I think Monday, the number was 3,105 individual permits, which represented 1,795 different properties around the village. And the value of this work is $90,255,077 as of Monday. So
Year to date, fiscal year to date?
yes,
Fiscal year.
as of Monday. Don't have data up to date today, but that's as of Monday. So that also represents a significant amount, our inspectors are also plan reviewers. They do inspections, they do plan review. And right now we're on track for certificate of occupancy inspections, which means when new businesses, new occupancy is created, they go out and inspect those spaces, but also they may go out a couple times on one of those 3,105 permit projects. That amounts to about 6,500 building inspections. We're on track to, by the end of this fiscal year, complete 6,500 building inspection. So it's a lot of movement around the village. And a lot of visiting and getting the inside and out of a lot of properties around the village. We continue to work on improving those operations and including providing more accessible services to residents. As we talked about last night, we moved to the cloud. We're continuing to fine tune how we make sure our staff knows how to use the cloud, using it to their best abilities. Also making sure that it continues to move in the direction of being the most customer friendly way of procuring a permit. We've also shifted how we handle permits that are under review. Sort of, we talk about all the technology things, but there's also just a human aspect of something comes in, it's going through multiple reviews, or somebody doesn't seem to be making the changes. Instead of just continuing to circulate through an email system or the permit system, the protocol now is to flag it and have one of the permit techs or one of the staff as assigned call and follow up with the property owner to check in and see what's going on. So we have a little bit more of a human touch at that point to take people out of the cycle. We've also, when the people do come in for that second review, we've also reduced the time that they're sitting in the queue. They don't return to the end of the line, they move into a shorter re-review line. So they're being reviewed in a faster manner. Code compliance staff continues to work to make sure that Skokie is a safe and beautiful place. We utilize Access Skokie, as we talked about last night, to receive a complaint, or people can of course call us and we'll process through that route as well. It's enabled us. I was watching on YouTube, like Charlie presenting, that has been a good partnership to gain information so we can better deploy our resources and inspection services. So we work, Access Skokie and the Granicus system is a good tool for that. Right now, we're on track to complete over 4,500 inspections this year. That includes all the complaints that we received. It includes windshield inspections, which are considered the ones when we're driving around on our way to something and we see things as we drive through town to those places. But it also, and some of that also includes the follow-up to complaints that might come in through a building route of work without permits. Some of the code compliance specialists go out and investigate those activities as well. We support the village's neighborhood integrity ordinance along with health and human services and the police departments. Since the beginning of this fiscal year, we've completed over 200 round inspections, which represents close to 600 apartment units around the village. While we are not going into the units, we're reviewing the exterior and the interior of common area elements. We've tried to increase the number of visits we've made to the rental housing and multifamily housing, and this has resulted in 12 properties going through the village's administrative hearing process to address outstanding issues. We continue to identify properties that should be registered as rental units. Since the beginning of the fiscal year, we've registered an additional 104 units that need to fall under our that rental registration process. We convene 4 trainings a year. We work to train landlords to make sure that they're doing the right thing in terms of managing their properties. So we've done those 4 times a year. We haven't seen the need necessarily to increase those yet, but we're prepared and we continue to fine tune to make sure that we're providing the best information possible. When we came to the village board last year, it was helpful. Some of those things trickled into some of the trainings going forward after the issues that came up. Finally, this spring we've started the new short-term rental registration ordinance, and we anticipate returning to the board later this summer with an update on how that's going. May 1 is our big date to launch. Everybody has to be registered in compliance if they want to continue to operate and list their STR by that date. And as we look ahead, touched on this a lot last night, but implementation of the matrix report as well as the strategic plan, again, that community vibrancy, bringing village services where people are, improving customer service, all those pieces fall within things that our department touches on. Looking to build staff capacity, both through continued training, but also looking to add the two new staff members we talked about last night, the permit technician, as well as the code compliance specialist, and deploying technology to fill in gaps where we know we can continue to extend services such as AI to help identify code compliance issues and expand our ability to do visual inspections at properties. So I will pause there before we turn around. If you want to do any questions.
Thank you for your report. Why don't we go ahead and hear, unless anyone objects, we'll go ahead and hear from Mr. Snelly and then we can combine all of our questions. So Mr. Snell.
Sounds great. Great, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be before all of you tonight. Do 2 things. I think we'll just recap some of the highlights and activities from our past year and as to how we'll talk about what we're looking at in the upcoming year. As the Economic Vitality Division, we're here to promote the local business ecosystem in the village of Skokie, and we're here to help retain the businesses we have, help them grow, recruit new ones, and help bring new development opportunities into the village, overall growing our economy. In the past year, we had a pretty consistent year with the prior, and that we issued close to 120 new certificates of occupancy for new businesses. I think given the economic uncertainties of the time, that's a reflection of the strength of our market and the population demographics that we have to continue to support that kind of business activity. I won't go through them all, but I think many of you have been at many of the ribbon cuttings or grand opening celebrations. We've attracted a lot of really significant brand names into the village, particularly at Old Orchard, as well as a lot of wonderful startup businesses, particularly in the downtown area. And so proud to have on the list like Blue Bottle Coffee, Soul Good Coffee on Main Street, Zelda's Table, Hut Shack, Lego, Bowling Branch, so on and so forth. But there was a really wonderful list of businesses that came into the community this past year. Some of the notable activities of our economic vitality team was the expansion of the winter market on Main. to the kitty corner side of the street. If you recall, we did Clue the Walking Mystery downtown last year, which attracted thousands of visitors to downtown Skokie. And we completed the first cohort of the Green Business Program, where we graduated 11 businesses out of the Green Business Program. One of the other things we spent a great deal of time on, and it's in the area of capacity building for our businesses and the business community. And we do that really by business district. So we had the launch of the Downtown Skokie Merchants Collaborative last year, which we were proud to have had a hand in helping to grow and create, fund. And we have quarterly meetings now of our Main Street merchants. And we're building a stronger organization based for that community out of the business side. We also held our first 2 Southeast Industrial Area Owners and Managers meetings. So it's a different type of geography and harder to kind of bring them together. But we did have successfully hold 2 of those, more as listening sessions to understand what their needs are going forward. And we're able to solve a lot of their individual problems. So we're going to continue to do that. We participated and negotiated or coordinated 18 different incentive agreements last year, and those fall under the categories of our storefront enhancement programs, where we'll give some kind of matching grant assistance to capital improvements that small businesses are making. Those are TIF related grants and or TIF related redevelopment agreements. And then Cook County tax incentive agreements, 6 Bs or 7 Bs. So in total, there was 18 of those last year. And as well, we manage the 3 TIF districts, administer those, conduct the joint review board meetings that are required by statute for each of those TIF districts, and prepare those annual reports. We celebrated last year our 2nd annual manufacturing month, which occurs in October. And you may have reported, number of us reported last year that we did a program prior year, which we now expanded. So we had 60 high school students this year that came from Niles North, Niles West, and we included Evanston Township as well. And they toured a number of manufacturing sites, and they get a hands-on experience to see a career pathway into some of the unique industries that we have here in the village of Skokie. We partnered with the Skokie Public Library and Oakton College and some of the other organizations that are in the career pathway or pathway professional space. A great deal of our time this year was spent moving implementation of the Main Street plan forward that was shown to the board and put on file, I think, December of 2024. And so we're working on the Main Street Plaza streetscaping project. And we're at the final stages of plan preparation and expect that to be able to go out to bid here shortly. A lot of our energy is also spent on developer recruitment. So we have our own village-owned properties, which we recruit developers to. I think all of those, I have many active conversations or far into the development agreements and ultimately purchase agreements. But we also promote and recruit developers to other properties within the village that are ripe for redevelopment. I think we talked about it earlier in a number of ways. We don't have anywhere to grow but up. So we have a lot of properties that are suitable for redevelopment. Some of the things I'd like to talk about in terms of our focus for our upcoming fiscal year activities. We have a lot of exciting new things. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and you'll see a number of new things popping up here very quickly. Focus on some new downtown businesses that are right around the corner. We're going to have Hummingbird Hideaway opening across the street in the 8,000 North building, which the board had awarded a storefront enhancement program grant for. We're going to have Dewey's Barbecue moving into the Rich's Britches space. And if we had an hour, I'd love to tell you the story, maybe catch me one-on-one someday, because it really is a remarkable story of what our division does and all of the ombudsman work that has to happen to get something from the start to the finish line. We pick it up every time it falls down. But we're close to getting to the finish line on that. Same with the Skokie Provisions Project at 8149 Lincoln. And well, mentioned briefly, one of the goals and objectives we have in the next fiscal year is to be able to start paying a little more attention and hopefully a little more grant funding, a little more planning activity to the part of Oakton Street east of Skokie Boulevard. And so happy to announce we have a new ice cream shop that's gonna be coming at 404017 Oakton called Nat and Knuckles. We just gave them a small assistance grant to start their interior build out. So they're important wins when you start to set your eyes on a part of the community that has not needs a little love, and we can start to do that and see those first wins happen. It's we're grateful to have that. You have in the budget proposal this year some additional funding that we've requested that falls in lines with our new strategic plan initiatives. Under the community vibrancy strategy, one of the objectives was economic development expanded, and we're first going to approach that by doing a build out of our economic vitality strategy, and that's in the proposed budget. The Economic Development Commission put a framework for that together, which we will start with once we have a consultant selected, but build it out robustly. From there, that'll cover the entire village of Skokie. We continue to work hard on our small business recruitment and support efforts. We've built in the past 2 years a strong development resource guide and referral system so that we're able to help our new entrepreneurs connect to resources, whether that be at the public library, at the Small Business Development Center, in the workforce space. A lot of energy goes into building the ecosystem that supports our businesses, and we kind of serve as the linchpin to make those connections and relationships. We'll continue our activity in what we now know as the Swift District, and these are the properties around the downtown Yellow Line station that are ripe for redevelopment that we're exploring those redevelopment opportunities on. We're continuing to work towards our comment undergrounding project, which is going to release some of those sites to be able to start development this year. We're going to do the manufacturing month program expanded, and we're in the very early stages of exploring some other ways that we might be able to expand that relationship with our manufacturers. We are blessed and surprised almost every week to find some other manufacturer in this community that does something remarkable that we didn't know. Things that are literally national treasures. And so we're very early, so don't put this in the book yet for a date, but we're looking at something maybe under a moniker of like Made in Skokie. So in addition to the high school student tours, we can start to build a program where we can highlight some of these businesses, maybe see if they're open to an open house for us and public members to come visit, and really put a little spotlight too with our communication tools on some of the great things we're doing here in the village of Skokie. There's also in the budget request funding for the second cohort of our green business program. This would target to be able to get 15 or 20 businesses graduated this year, that in line with making improvements that support our sustainability goals. And we are going to try our darndest to get the Main Street project built starting early this summer and concluding by the end of construction season. Lastly, I think I will touch on the energy around the hotel activity. I don't want to be repetitive of what our outside counsels reported to you in terms of some of the negotiations regarding the litigation and legal side of that. But I wanted to, I guess, just take a moment to let you know, we have invested, there's a lot of time being invested right now in trying to identify potential developers for that site, interested parties for that site, so that when the legal pathway forward does open up, where we have many people hopefully in the pipeline to explore that. So we're actively right now in conversations with about 10 different development groups. It's all going to come down to, numbers and things at the end of the day that we're still working on. So it's still moving target, but we invest a lot of energy into trying to find the solution to that project, and hopefully have more to report I'll briefly turn to the TIF districts, the three TIF districts that the village of Skokie has. The budgets before you this year are relatively status quo in that they provide for ongoing maintenance expenses and small capital projects that align with the CIP budget for each of the TIF districts. They provide for the debt service requirements that each of the TIF districts has relative to prior bond issues for train station, hotel, parking garage at 8,000 North. The only difference in the TIF districts, I would say, not status quo from last year, as you'll see in their an operating transfer that aligns with the capital improvement program that anticipates the possibility that we may have to construct or start construction of the parking structure related to the hotel within the next fiscal year. So that's the one non-status quo thing that may jump out at you if you look at the TIF districts.
Thank you for that report. Economic vitality strategy. Please give us your best sense of the timeline.
Yeah, so I think after assuming budget approval, and we have the funds to move forward, we're having draft request for qualifications. That we're working on internally that we'll be able to release for, the consultants to respond to. So that should be able to happen in June. And then we would have the interview time, hopefully to you with the contract for approval in August, and starting in the fall, we envision probably a 6-month minimum process. So I think late spring to early summer, we'd probably be in position.
Good. And how will the Economic Development Commission, we've talked briefly about the EDC and their involvement. Can you build that out a little bit for us, please?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things. They're gonna have a role. They're obviously the key advisory commission, right? That's going to be involved with development and review of that prior to bringing it to the board. I think there needs to be a significant community engagement component to the economic vitality strategy. The exact form of that, I think I don't have the final answer until we have the consultant selected and kind of work through the process. There's some, I think, tools that will probably lend themselves to this that are better for this type of planning work. But I think the economic development commission will have a significant role in having some of those work sessions and doing some of that analysis.
We recognize that many of them have deep subject matter expertise in areas of the plan that we've developed, so we hope that they will take a more active role in some of the engagement of those communities.
To my colleagues, what I'm hoping comes out of this is, in addition to a blueprint for the entire community, I'm hoping that the plan can also help us shape the work of the Economic Development Commission. I'd like to actually at some point expand that commission and bring, for example, I don't know if there's anybody, help me Rodney, I don't think there's anybody on the EDC now from the manufacturer. No. So waiting to, a lot of residents are interested, but I believe it's incumbent on us to find that balance between, institutional partners, business and manufacturing stakeholders and residents who are key. We know all of our residents want economic development. They've made that abundantly clear for decades and decades and decades. We are thinking, and it's just a thought right now, but hold on to the thought. We are thinking possibly of organizing a community conversation around economic vitality. The key is everyone wants to Trader Joe's somewhere in Skokie. But that's exciting, and thinking about that is interesting, and there's a hopeful component, but there's so much more to economic vitality. And we need to help bring our community along really as partners in the reality of what it takes for economic vitality. Main Street Plaza, you're gonna bring that home for us this year?
That's the goal.
Okay. Good. Illinois Science and Technology Park.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I think we had an opportunity last year We hosted one of our Economic Development Commission meetings at the Illinois Science and Technology Park. It was last May, 2025, we were there. And we brought in the life science space experts from the state of Illinois and World Business Chicago that do all of the recruiting. They are the frontline people of, and if there's any biotech, life science, pharmaceutical company looking at space in Illinois, these are the people that touch it. The Science Tech Park also is represented by the leading broker in Chicagoland in that space, JLL, and specifically Max Zollner. And yet our 80/30 building isn't full, despite the investments we put into it. Part of that's strategic in that, there could have been smaller tenant opportunities that are expensive build outs, and they've been patient to wait for a bigger tenant. But I think, what the effort to meet last year was a start of a conversation for us to get a better understanding of what that life science market space looks like, because it's completely different than when the Forest City project started in 2007, when the Searle campus was converted. And there was not any competition for really what we were doing there at the time. And in less than 20 years, there's significant competition from buildings in Hyde Park, multiple buildings in Fulton Market, buildings in Evanston. All those buildings are positioned in closer proximity to all the medical research institutes, which we just don't have that proximity or connection to here. So I don't want that to sound pessimistic. I think the opportunity is figuring out where those connections, where those missing relationships are that we need to build. Keep leveraging the experts in that space.
Please remind us, is the park under multiple ownership now or single ownership?
So all the property south of Searle is owned by Sayerman.
Okay,
But the piece of property north of Searle where the outer space concert type of been held, that's still owned by American Landmark
American
Properties.
go ahead.
The one clarification, the office building on Searle Parkway, on the south side of Searle Parkway is owned by a different entity.
Yeah, Top Med, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Where that Denver Health's back
Right.
office stuff.
One last question for me and then open it to the group. You talked about the small businesses that have opened. It's great when they open. How are we actively working to support them to help them succeed? We want them to keep their doors open.
Yes.
And certainly some of that, the responsibility for that, again, there's this idea of shared responsibility in them to support them. But what are we as a village,
Yeah,
to help support them?
but it obviously varies by business. We do everything that we think we could humanly possibly do with each of them, whether the advice is always needed is a different question, or whether they have the capacity. And sometimes that, it ranges as everything from assistance with their social media, with their search engine optimization, how their menus present, better things they can do with their signage, recommendations in marketing, to, connecting them to referral sources that can actually support them. Again, we have great resources through the Skokie Public Library, through the Small Business Development Center at Oakton. The challenge with a lot of the small businesses is, once they get running, they're doing their thing. And if they're missing some of those skill sets, the capacity to build them up is not always available to them. So we do everything we can to help pull them along. We are looking into what some of the available resources are that we could offer that are essentially canned training or educational programs. So we're exploring some of those right now. They're expensive applications. And again, require a commitment of time that we often find that those entrepreneurs struggle to have available to them. So open to suggestions always, or if you see somebody struggling that needs help, we'll know you've done that as well. We'll happy to reach out if you understand that.
I appreciate that. Okay, questions from the group. Trustee, we'll start on the north side this time. Trustee Schechter and then trustee Items.
Well, first of all, the good stuff. I was thrilled, Johanna, the Community Land Trust, the Housing Fund, a lot of good stuff has been coming out of the department. Love to seeing the increases in the multifamily inspections and the addition of staff and the new budget, so that's great. So just a couple of questions and comments on objectives, just maybe to have put in writing. I know we've got like 15 objectives, but like the short-term rental implementation was not mentioned anywhere. I mean, you mentioned it here, but it was just not writing, and I think it'd be good to just document that we're looking at the pilot. What was it, every 6 months?
6 months, so that I was just doing
6 months,
math, the
yeah.
first report should be in October.
Yeah,
No, November. May is when licensure begins, 6 months, 6 November.
so just sort of putting that in as an objective. The other thing as a suggestion on the, because you were talking about the housing subcommittee of the plan commission and looking at it's great, a housing needs study. Maybe also, and this was something that came from Peter Levy, who's the chair of that subcommittee, about doing an inventory of vacant parcels. And actually, I realized that in economic vitality, you were kind of touching on that in terms of businesses. But it seems to me like some kind of proactive mapping out and inventorying of our parcels and then coming up with, oh, we'd like to attract this kind of development.
And that'll be part of the economic vitality strategy, won't it?
I'm saying
It's
also,
we
also
have that.
housing.
For housing.
Or
Yeah,
housing.
We have, it's interesting to say vacant parcels, because sometimes a vacant parcel isn't really a vacant parcel, it's a parking lot that we use, or it's a property that's tied up with certain environmental issues, or there's always other, so Rod has a list of most of the properties, we've mapped them with our GIS, so we have a sense of those. That was actually part of the environmental sustainability plan. We have that list.
Right, and actually along the lines of that, another recommendation for the housing subcommittee, and it kind of dovetails also with your number 14 of the objectives, is this whole the findings of fact that the plan commission goes through. It just seems like, I don't know how many years it's been those same findings of fact. But it seems to me that they should incorporate the new housing chapter of the comprehensive plan. Now, to what extent this includes some affordable housing or transit-oriented development, or conform with the sustainability plan, or, you know, it just seems like there are some other criteria to be added that could, you know, as you call it, further align building sustainability, planning, zoning, and economic vitality objectives. So these are just some basic thought, and then of course, always making sure whenever there's a development to ask that they include some affordable housing.
Trustee Iverson?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you guys. The Main Street project, it's really exciting that this is coming around. I think it's really important as you go down the path of this economic vitality strategy. Of course, they're gonna have all sorts of great ideas, but I think as you talk to the community about it, I think a lot of them you're gonna hear a lot of things along the lines of Main Street. As you succeed on Main Street, I think a lot of other communities are gonna look to see that happen. And I think it's been a lot of work. So, I mean, do you feel like you've got the bandwidth in your department if somebody says to you, yes, in addition to Eastern Oakton, we also want to take a look at, you know, up here on the north side, we've got 2 other ideas. Is that something you?
So one of the strategic goals initiatives, I think I got that word right, is sub-area planning, because we do believe in smaller plans. They're digestible, they can be, you can engage a more specific group of people that may be directly impacted by that particular plan. Kind of modeling how we went through the Main Street, the grassroots nature, the local buy-in. So we like small plans, sub-area plans, small plans. So I think that is very digestible. I think smaller plans are easier to go through, neighborhood plans, than big plans, because you're trying to engage big groups of people with big ideas and build consensus. It's not, I know maybe it is need to build easy consensus in small groups, but when you have a targeted objectives like we did on Main Street, we were able to really deploy, like, we want to address the large setbacks, we want to build capacity to bring in restaurants and create spaces, like we had some very specific goals. We had an engaged community and so that works well. So as we look to implement those initiatives, the plan is we take one at a time, we take them in chewable bites, we take the first one and then we figure out the next one. And they may not be the self-selected group of people that we go working with, but we try to balance who's interested and who self-identifies, but also where are some areas that as a community we have, and you as a governing body have identified as places we need to go.
Excellent, excellent. I think that's a lot of value to the residents, also the people who visit the residents. On the $10 million garage. I've been questioned about that. And my response, and I'd like you to let me know if I'm off base, but my response has been that our opportunity to make that hotel happen is of enormous benefit, and the garage not only will benefit that hotel and enable that to happen, but it's also going to benefit all the area around it because of the need for parking, not to mention open up the pathway to Eastern Oakton. Am I off base? Because it is a lot of money, and people, when you say hotel, everybody's hair rises.
Yep, so the garage was planned to support the parking requirements of the hotel, but additionally parking requirements for downtown. And optionally, potentially additional parking requirements for the Science Technology Park. So the village is only building the portion that supports the hotel and our downtown public parking. And the Science Technology Park has the option to expand it beyond that if they want to incur that expense now to build additional parking. Yes, if and when we are able to have a path forward on the hotel, trustee Iverson, that a hotel could not go without the parking. It's a fundamental requirement, right? Could not open without the parking being available. So we're just trying to put things back on track so that if and when we can hit the gas pedal, we're ready to do that. The dollars that we're talking about this year's budget were already bond issued dollars that are sitting in the TIF fund waiting to be deployed to the parking garage.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So when we have an opportunity, the hotel, I'm gonna ask you to strike that if. It's gonna be when.
I like the optimism.
Okay, any questions from our colleagues on the south side? Anything,
I guess I have a short one.
please.
I know that, one of the best, I think I'm sorry. Well, we have one dispensary in the village, we've always talked about trying to get another one, and then it's a revenue source. Okay, any updates, and any more inquiries to any of the other corridor? In place that takes revenues?
So we did have, I think in my time here, I think there's been 2 inquiries about it. We have limited locations that it's a possibility. We did do a GIS analysis where because of the buffer restrictions that are built into the locational criteria, we mapped all those out. So we know the few spots that they're able to go. So that industry is quite challenged right now as well. So I think there's been quite a slowdown in the amount of people in the pipeline looking to do that. So
Thank you.
I have a comment, please.
Yes, trustee Lee.
I just want to say thank you so much for taking care of Main Street, taking it seriously. I speaking as Lissa, the resident of Skokie, who just wanted something to happen there, to Lissa, the activist who started, meet up on Main, to Lissa, the trustee who is hearing the village take it seriously, the needs of the residents. I mean, it's just, I'm so moved at this moment, and I wish I were there in person to express my gratitude, face to face. So thank you so deeply.
Thank you, trustee. And trustee Shank.
Thank you. Yeah, so, Rodney, I guess I was looking at, page 87 of the budget message, your objective 6 here about, it just says support growth and development at Old Orchard through expedited permit and inspection processing and ongoing development for this growing community. And I guess what struck me is wondering, why would we only expedite permit and inspection at Old Orchard? Why not everywhere?
So, so one of that's been a long-standing policy that predates me, and maybe John and Nick can chime in, but typically that was because there were national tenants that needed to meet certain deadlines. That if they came in at a certain time that was busy, they then made an agreement to pay for the overtime if they needed it. But they have not. When I got here, I asked a similar question. And it turns out they have not needed it in about 3 or 4 years. We've continued to hold that policy if they do need it, because it's an important, they have to meet national tenants if they're in or they're out, and they don't open the store if we don't get it. But we also certainly recognize that they may not have a national tenant deadline. That small mom and pop operation has a different kind of very important deadline. So we try to meet everybody's deadlines, but also recognizing that there are, as a partner at Old Orchard, they have some different things. So we put in place those policies, but we have not needed to activate that. And we try to be mindful that everybody that's opening a business, or maybe that they're trying to get their home ready for some graduation to host their in-laws or whatever. We try to continue to recognize that there's a very human side to all these activities, and try to get people through the process as quickly as possible.
Yeah, just obviously it's an equity issues. And I also appreciated the whole manufacturing day and all that you're doing, and my mind was already thinking about things like supply chains, to the extent that we can attract if we have current manufacturers and we can attract those that would create, the materials to supply, up the chain.
So I'm pleased to tell you all, 2 weeks ago, I toured some incredible manufacturing space on Central Park near our fire station 17. It's owned by a restaurant that's in Lincolnwood, Lemonade. They, in one building, they make all of their desserts. There are staff there pinching phyllo dough by hand, making beautiful desserts. And then they have 2 shifts, and they make pita bread at night. They purchased another space several doors north, and that is supposed to be open sometime this fall, where they will be running 4 lines of different types of pita bread. Not just to support their restaurant, but to support national clients. And so we will all be invited to that. And again, we all do, and I know you join me in this, but thanking them for their investment. So, trustee Iverson.
Just on that subject, Mayor, Made in Skokie is, whatever you come up with, is just a really fun idea, and I think it's excellent to support them. George and Nutt, Patel, there's a lot of great operations. Lemonade is, in grocery. It's at Dominic's, it's at or Mariano's.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
family owned.
and there's Skokie.
Yeah. Somewhere in the archives, we did a very first large economic development brochure. The former, Rodney's former, Tom Thompson, may he rest in peace, piece that Tom and I worked on. We had in the middle a Made in Skokie, and we found all kinds of unique products that were manufactured in Skokie. So that may be in Patrick's office. It's got a white cover. We have to look inside the back. Okay, and trustee Kamani TV is gonna have the last question.
I did notice, driving through Glenview and Northwood, that they have new entryway signs. And I saw that listed as well for Skokie. Is the plan to do something similar to that? And if so, I'm just trying to find 11.
They're trying to find what? Oh, yeah, so there was some past money in past budgets allocated to that in past CIPs and the remaining monies in this upcoming proposed budget. But we have a committee that's been working across the department with that committee. And I believe that it's designed for one of the managers' newsletter recently, so we can report that to you. So that'll be an upcoming item in the for the village board.
They have solar panels on them, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Super cool.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate all the hard work. Really excited about the economic vitality plan and, for community development. We know that implementing that matrix plan is significant work and we greatly appreciate staff just digging in and getting it done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments? Oh, we don't have anyone from the public here this evening. Hopefully they're watching. They can always send us comments in writing. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, I would call for a motion to adjourn. So moved by trustee Pierce Logan. I think I see a second percolating from trustee Kamani Levy. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Kamani Levy.
Aye.
Trustee Robinson.
Aye.
Trustee Iverson.
Aye.
Trustee Lissa Levy.
Aye.
Trustee Pierce Logan.
Aye.
Trustee Schechter.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned at precisely